Hey guys, so this is our word study for this week. I'm gonna go ahead and put it in present mode. And remember, our goal is I can determine the meaning of a root. So we're gonna be learning a new root this week. Think about this picture, the video of people cycling. What part of the bike activates the movement? So we have, pretend like you don't see that. We'll have this video. What part of the bike helps these people move? What part of the bike do you have to enforce to move? So if we, after watching that video, what part of
The light isn't blinking or solid. Drivers.
Okay. If you're thinking about the bike, what part of the bike helps you move, helps you go forward? What are your feet sitting on that you push forward and you pull back and you push forward and you pull back? Um, any ideas? Those are called pedals. You probably learned about them with Coach Johnson in PE when you guys were learning about how to ride bikes. I ride bikes a lot, so I know that when I push forward on my pedal, the pull back on my pedal is just as important and it kind of helps you go forward. So, pedals. The video says pedestrians, which is people crossing the street, should always push the button and wait for the signal to cross the street. Who or what is the pedestrian? Wasn't supposed to tell you. Here we go. All right.
Can proceed down the road. Pedestrians should always push the crosswalk button and wait for the signals to cross. Once the signal is activated, the traffic lights turn yellow, advising motorists to prepare to stop.
Motorists are
when
cars.
the lights turn solid red, drivers must stop. The crosswalk signal will change and start chirping to let pedestrians know they have the right of way. When the pedestrian signal starts counting down to let people know how much time they have left in the crosswalk, the red traffic light facing motorists will start blinking red. If the intersection is clear, despite the red blinking lights, motorists are allowed to proceed.
So thinking about that, who are the pedestrians? What what are they using to cross the street? Um, Pedestrians are usually the people that are walking across the street. So they're usually on their feet. They're not in a car. Now, sometimes cyclists use crosswalks too, because it's sometimes when you're riding your bike across busy streets, you have to make sure that you have the traffic's attention to stop so that you can keep riding your bike. But you're not called a pedestrian, you're called a cyclist. So pedestrians are usually people that are walking across the street. Pedestrians. And then look at these creatures. What do you think they're called? What do we think they're called? If I had to take a guess, I would guess that this creature probably has a certain number of legs that could be important. And they might they have other insects that have similar characteristics to them, but they have different prefixes on them because they have different numbers of feet. So we're going to watch this video really fast.
You probably think of centipedes as tiny, squishy, bothersome things cowering in your garden. Meet the South American centipede. About a foot long, in your face,
so 1 foot.
Full of surprises. First surprise, this centipede is still growing, so it's got to shed so a new exoskeleton can grow on its body. Like a debutante wriggling out of a too-tight evening gown, the centipede has to squirm, slink, twitch, writhe,
So
and
it's
ooze out of its
outgrowing
confinement.
its skin, so it has to wiggle out of its skin.
Finally, it gets out of its old body armor. Now it has to plump up fast before its epidermis secretes chitin too soon. If the chitin hardens into a shell while the centipede is still on the smallish side, the shedding would have been pointless. Hey, what could be more convenient snacking than that handy old exoskeleton? What do you call this? I mean, it's not cannibalism because that's eating another of your own species. I guess you could call this auto-grazing.
So auto-grazing would be
The
self-grazing,
centipede has a
because of
new
what we know
skin
about
and a
auto.
new attitude. Predator. It's hungry, and eating its old skin just isn't good enough. It's after a baby green iguana. The iguana is fast, twitchy, highly mobile, and impulsive. The centipede is slower, persistent, hungry, and strategic. The centipede advances on the iguana. The iguana retreats. The iguana scoots. The centipede crawls. Scoot, crawl. Scoot, crawl. Whoopsie daisy. Somehow, after all that scooting, the iguana finds itself at the end of a branch. How'd that happen?
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. The centipede moves in for the moment of truth. The iguana considers its options and, in a defensive response, leaps into the safety of the water below. Okay, so the centipede wasn't satisfied eating its own skin, and then it failed to nab a more substantial meal. Now what? These baby rats are safe because Mom is guarding the nest. But Mom has to go grocery shopping, leaving the babies completely helpless. Speaking of grocery shopping, the centipede relies on ground vibrations and antennae touch to locate a feast like this one. Mom senses danger and races to the rescue. The centipede is chased off, but not before Mom discovers one of her babies dead, killed by the centipede. Now, wait a minute. We don't want you to think that centipedes are venom-spewing, 100-legged baby killers. I mean, the females can be devoted moms. I dare any predator to try and get at these eggs. This mom is literally a basket case, protecting her eggs until they hatch, and a new generation of fierce, multi-limbed warriors are unleashed on the jungle.
So I don't know if you caught it when he said it, but they are called centipedes. And if we think back to what we learned before about the meaning of the word centa, centa meant 100. And like I said previously, we're really looking at how many of something they have. So they have 100 feet. So they're called centipedes, and they're called centipedes because they have 100 feet. So you could rate your knowledge. One, I don't know any of these words and I don't know what they mean. Two, I've heard the word before, could figure it out if somebody gave me a hint. Or three, I know the meaning of the word and I can understand it. Or four, I know it so well that I could explain it to somebody else. So just to yourself, just give yourself 1, 2, 3, or 4. And then think, what is the same in all three of these words? Pedals, pedestrian, and peed. So if you're looking at those three words, you might notice that ped or peed is in all three of those words. And remember, pedals are what your feet sit on, so your feet pull it back up. Pedestrians were people that were walking on their feet to get somewhere. And centipedes has 100 legs. And if you remember about centipedes, we talked about, we know the root centa, and we know that root means 100. So if that root means 100, we think that this root probably means feet or foot, 100 feet. Okay. So if we were at school, we would be making our note card for ped or peed, which means foot. And we would be adding some words to it, but we're not at school. So if you have a note card at home, or if you want to cut up a piece of notebook paper and make your own note card, feel free. Otherwise, we're just going to keep going with the next days. So this would be day 2, and it's still determining the meaning of a route. And we're going to talk about this word expedition. If I'm thinking about the word expedition, let me get my drawing tools back on here. If I was thinking about the word expedition, I might think about X is one of my roots, ped is one of my roots. And if I think about X, I know that it is outside, right? So X meaning outside, and ped meaning foot. Sorry. Ped meaning foot. So we're going to take a look at something that is outside foot. So this is just a quick video of 10 of the most epic expeditions that changed history. So, named for his hair and temper, he was exiled from Iceland for murder, and his name was Eric the Red. He, in 985, hold on. Let's go back. In 985, he sailed for Greenland with 25 ships. 14 made it and established a colony that mysteriously disappeared. So this is number 9. Josh Slocum, a Canadian sailor who in 1898 also completed his first journey. The journey took him over 3 years and 46,000 miles. Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay, they became the first people to reach the summit of Mount Everest. Around 4,000 people have climbed it since then. Ronald Amundsen led the first expedition to the South Pole in 1911, reaching it under 60 days. He kept the mission a secret so Norway's government would not stop him and let Britain achieve the feat instead. Henry Stanley and David Livingstone. Livingstone went missing for 5 years while searching for the Nile source in Africa. Stanley found him in 1871 and said, "Dr. Livingstone, I presume?" That's kind of crazy. Marco Polo, Venetian traveler who traveled from Europe to Asia between 1271 and 1295. Spending 17 years in Kublai Khan's empire, his writings helped introduce Westerners to China. Meriwether Lewis and William Clark, an 8,000-mile, 2.5-year exploration of the American West. On their journey to the Pacific coast, they found 300 new species and 50 native tribes. Charles Darwin. In 1831, Darwin set sail for 5 years aboard the HMS Beagle and traveled the world. He saw a rich variety of life form, helping him develop evolutionary biology. Ferdinand Magellan, a ship from Magellan's fleet, first became this to circumnavigate the globe. Magellan himself died on the journey, killed by locals in the Philippines. And this is the top exploration. Neil Armstrong, Michael Collins, and Edwin Aldrin. The Apollo 11 mission reached the moon on July 20th, 1969. The 2-hour spacewalk on July 21st was the highlight of a 953,054-mile, 8-day journey. So those are just 10 of the most famous expeditions. So if you're thinking about that, we remember expedition meaning outside and foot. So exploration on foot, that's outside. Quadrupeds. Now, if I was thinking about quadrupeds, here we go. Remember, we've already talked about quad before, and we know quad means 4, and you know ped means foot. Oh my gosh, foot. So quadruped meaning something that has 4 feet. Then they have the word impede. So I want you to think about impede as in we're really going to think about what we're going to kind of drift off for what ped or pede might mean. And we're going to use ped or pede as in to step. So impede would be to step in the way of. So usually you say like they might be impeding your judgment. They might be stepping in the way of your judgment. Lots of times if people like somebody, they say, well, your judgment's impeded because you like them, and that's kind of blocking you from seeing what's really happening. So to step in front of would be impede. And then if we think about this, I have one more video for you guys. This is probably the most famous one that you guys have all seen.
Will I like the surprise?
Let's see.
Simba,
Keep going. So this is one of the most famous, saddest scenes in Lion King.
I gotta have a wildebeest. Can I just pick off one of the little sick ones?
So let's see.
Rawr.
I keep going. So the ground starts shaking. And then here come all these wildebeest. So I want you thinking about, what is this called? What are the wildebeest doing right now? So if we were thinking about, I'm going to stop it there. If we were thinking about what is happening with those wildebeest, what are those wildebeest doing? And when you see a big herd of animals like that coming, you usually would scream, stampede, because there's tons of animals, a huge group of animals running at you. So this is just a picture of wildebeest there. So if we were trying to write this word stampede out, if you have a piece of notebook paper and you want to write it, we could say stampede. So our first part, I keep thinking I could write on this. So our first part would be stam, and then you just learned the part pede. So our word would be stampede. So running, a bunch of animals running quickly on foot. It's kind of scary, but the most famous scene is in Lion King. And then this might be my favorite word that's on the agenda for today. What are these people getting? What are they going to get done to their toes? Girls or boys, if you've ever seen your mom or your grandma or your aunt or anybody go get their toes done, they call that a pedicure. So if we think of ped, so we have ped and then pedicure. So pedicure. I don't know why this D is still here. So pedicure, taking care of your feet, curing your feet of maybe things that you don't otherwise want, like calluses, or you want them to look pretty and have them painted. So that's a pedicure. And then the last little bit that we have, oh my gosh, why is that? So the buffalo is an example of a blank because it has 4 legs. So if I was thinking about that, the buffalo is an example of a quadruped because I know that they have 4 legs. So I might write in here, I'm not going to write in there. Maybe I will use this. Quadruped. The noise spooked the buffalo, and the herd began a blank across the plains. So that's when they are stampeding. My handwriting is really bad, guys. I'm sorry. The pioneers went on a blank to search for buffalo. So remember when they were going outside to look for things, that was called an expedition. Fallen trees will blank the buffalo's progress across the plains. So remember, we're thinking about something that's going to get in the way of them completing something else. So that's when we talked about the word impede. The tree is impeding the buffalo's journey. And then, would it be silly for buffalo to get a blank on their hooves? So, to get a pedicure. And I think that would be pretty humorous if a buffalo got a pedicure. But who knows? So, that's all we have for today for our new route of ped or ped. Let me know if you guys have any questions.